Hello and welcome to another edition of Motor Cars Enthusiasts. Right off the bat, this show is the Fat Bald Perspective, and we're going to talk about the season that was the new generation of Top Gear that was season 23. Now, biggest thing right off the bat, I think, to talk about is what I liked about this program, because obviously the BBC knows how to do Top Gear. The filming was fantastic. The actual out studio segments were just well put together, well paced, well edited, well shot. They really know how to make these shows beautiful in all conditions. They did a very, very nice job inside of this franchise. Now let's talk about some of the dislikes and some of the things that I really heaped a lot of, maybe a lot of hate on the old cast and crew itself. I think maybe has to move a little bit towards that crew part. With the writing, I think the writing's really where this show kind of fell off the cliff. When you look at the James May, Jeremy Clarkson, Richard Hammond era of Top Gear, those guys were really in sync with the crew, really in sync with the writers, and the actual crew doing the filming. They did what they did best, but as far as the writing and what came out of every presenter's mouth, I think was very well scrutinized, especially by the folks that were saying the words, those being the presenters. And I think they did a real nice job of editing and putting together the jokes, because you really noticed in this particular franchise, the new season of Top Gear, that the jokes were very few and far between. And that's a thing that I think that was really wrong with this franchise, is because all these presenters were really kind of looking out for themselves in a way that they weren't looking out for the franchise itself. Because you can think about Richard, James, and Jeremy. The three of them really loved to make fun of each other and really loved to make fun of themselves. Didn't mind looking like total idiots, which was part of the beauty and the charm of that particular program, and you didn't get to see it in this particular franchise. It seemed like everybody was a little bit too competitive and were not near where they needed to be as far as probably making it as good for the show as they needed to make it. So now let's move on to those presenters, and maybe a little humility heading into season 2 may be the biggest thing that needs to happen in this franchise. But let's move on to those presenters, like I said before. The Stig's awesome. He will remain with the franchise heading into season 24. Eddie Jordan, very little used inside of the franchise, not to mention he did look a little bit out of place inside of this program as well. So I think he did a fine job, brought a little bit of humor and a little bit of intrigue into this show that I thought might have been lacking a tad bit. He might have had been a little bit more of the humility than most of the other presenters put together. He's switching over to Chris Harris. Chris Harris is awesome. He's especially great when you get him behind the wheel with a camera on him. But he did have some trouble on the in-studio segments. But I think that will get better with time, and he'll become a little bit more into making this program better and better. Chris Evans. Chris Evans is really the one that took it on the chin, and I think a little bit, maybe with a little bit without merit. I thought Evans did a fine job inside of this program, but didn't really get the fair shake. Right off the bat, he was way off pace as far as what people thought about him, and the real problem was he kept picking fights with people on the old internets. Now, if it is true that he was picking fights also with cast and crew, had a bit of a control complex, and was maybe a little bit jealous of some of the success of the other presenters, this could be a situation moving forward which would be bad, which actually we're going to talk about the moving forward part here in a wee bit. Matt LeBlanc, I thought he did a fine job, but it always felt like that he was saying words out of someone else's mouth. Like he was playing a part rather than being who he is. Until we got to that 911R segment with him behind the wheel, I thought we really got to see the real Matt LeBlanc, and I really feel that he was helping out with some of the writing, helping out with some of the jokes and whatnot, really making that segment really good. In fact, that last episode, episode 6 of season 23, I thought was the best one that they made so far. Very well paced, very well put together as well. Sabine Schmidt, I thought that they didn't use her enough. Anything that came out of her mouth felt really genuine, and if it was written for her, It's hugely impressive what that woman can do, because it always felt like she was saying exactly what was on her mind. I thought she did a fine job. Just wish she was on the show a whole lot more. And then the star, to me, Rory Reed, coming from the YouTube universe, I thought he knocked it out of the park. He really looked like he'd been on Top Gear forever. He was really, really impressive. A little bit out of place in some segments, but for the most part, I think he was the star of the group. Now, you've probably already heard by now that Chris Evans, that is officially gone from the franchise, as Chris Evans made the announcement to the BBC, also made the announcement on the media side of things, and made the announcement on Twitter that he will not be back for season 24. Amidst all the hatred that he got thrown his way, which I think was a little unjust, he's also involved in somewhat of a scandal of sorts, where he's being investigated for a situation that I'm not really going to discuss on here. No need to drag his name through the mud anymore. So let's move right back into who's left. Are these folks coming back for this franchise? Is it going to be more of a trio type situation? Is it going to be Matt LeBlanc, Chris Harris, and Rory Reed? Is it going to be Sabine Schmidt, Matt LeBlanc, and Chris Harris? Is it going to be Chris Harris, Sabine Schmidt, and Rory Reed? It still remains to be seen what exactly is going to happen. And what's going to happen with Eddie Jordan. I would kind of like to get to see him come back again, but whether that is going to happen or not will remain to be seen as well. So it's going to be interesting times, and no doubt this is going to move pretty fast and furious too. Keep checking back with Motor Cars Enthusiasts, because I'm going to make the announcement there too on what the cast is going to be. I will let you know as soon as I know what's going on, because guess what? This is going to come really, really quickly, because scheduling for the filming of season 24 has already been announced. It's going to be in September of this year, 2016, for a Christmas release date. So no doubt this deal is going to get settled, and it's going to get settled fast, and you'll know about it pretty quickly. So keep checking back here and checking back on the old internets if you're really into this particular program. And that's all there was that I thought was worth talking about for this, the Fat Bald Perspective on Motor Cars Enthusiasts. Don't forget to like us over on the Facebook page. Links down in the show notes. Also, if you'd like to subscribe to the channel, you can do so at any time and get the first dibs on the brand new shows as soon as they come out. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again real soon.